So I'm David, and I work at a high school in Georgia, and so I guess I'm teaching this year. I'm teaching statistics, and I'm teaching computer science. So this is a good place for me to be right now, and for having, I guess, being able to working with students every day and trying to drag them through some of these things. It's a really nice place to be. It's really nice to hear what you guys are doing and like the real innovative and real creative stuff you're doing with students. And so I think it's exciting, and that's actually one of the things I keep on hearing about this. I hear so much enthusiasm, and it's a good thing to be able to bring. It's going to be nice to be able to bring that back to my school and like the other educators that I know that are working with data, working with statistics. So I'm hearing a lot about it of excitement, and of course, obviously, you guys have a vested interest in it. I really liked the statement to turn coding for all into coding for what, because I think that's really getting to the heart of why people are interested and why they are excited about it, and students are excited about it. So I think that with the personalization element has also come up a lot. Personalization with data, and Catherine just mentioned problems that are worth solving to you, and that really, getting into the big issues that have legs. The youth radio stuff is, that's just a litany of just fantastic, just inspiring stuff that it's really neat to see that kids are doing that, and I just want to see more of that. There is, I'd also like to think that it's getting better too. that there have been some barriers to getting high school students to work with data and to and I'm from a math perspective, but because that's what I'm teaching, but. Data's starting to creep into like all the disciplines, and so you have I have the history teachers knocking on my door saying, "Hey, can you come and like just take over my class and just talk about data for a little bit, talk about statistics with my class?" Because I'm teaching. I'm getting some students and getting to take them into data analysis, but there's I'm not reaching everybody, and so there's a lot of kids that are still taking history classes. They're taking science classes and they're doing Punnett squares, and all of a sudden chi-square distributions and stuff show up, and they want to know what all that means, and I think that this kind of that I'm optimistic that it's all getting better. That that the teachers and students are getting to they're starting to get to a better place. They're getting to be more comfortable. Maybe there's less fear about it. Kristen used the word fear, and she's right. Yeah, that I think that because when students would approach me, even if they don't teach me, sometimes I'll just get a knock on my door, and you'll have the students come up and say like, "Hey, I heard you know about math and statistics," and so they want to know what's going on, and they have a project that they're interested in, but they don't know what to do with it, and I always had a conflict there because I didn't know what to tell them. I have Fathom on my computer, and I'd like to be able to say, "Hey, well, let's just take your data. Let me just drag this onto." They don't have Fathom, they have Excel, and that's a problem. What they don't want to. There's a reluctance to go and really dig into Excel on the level that you'd want to be able to do stuff with it. You want something that's intuitive and easy and free, hopefully, and that's what I'm seeing here, which is great. So to be able to turn a kid toward a Code App or Social Explorer, I'm really excited about the idea of like Live Tracker that we talked that we've talked about on several occasions over the past couple of days. Apps that can track data on you. There's so many opportunities for interesting analysis there, and I think that's very exciting to students, particularly when it means something to them, where it's not these prescribed investigations. I really like. Tim actually mentioned. He confidently said yesterday, "Oh, you can just send students into the U.S. Census data." And within a couple of, very quickly, they'll find something of interest, no matter what it is. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I could see that. And then I was like, but I would hesitate to just turn them loose into the census data. But but maybe I shouldn't. And and then I shared a story yesterday that sort of relates to that. When you just pick an arbitrary data set and start digging into it. I've already been in school for 2 weeks with students because Georgia starts that early. We get out a lot earlier, but we also start a little early. So I've already had about 2 weeks with students, and I know at this point in my career that because students haven't seen data before, they haven't seen interesting data sets before that are personal to them. So I know now that I need to start the year by just kind of showing off a little bit, like pulling up some interesting data sets and like looking and just letting them kind of drive the conversation. And so I try and pull, I have some salary information for for like the teachers at the district, because that's all open. They're really interested in like what's the assistant principal making and that kind of thing. And I'll hide the names and stuff, so it's not, but it provides us a good opportunity. There's a good opportunity for them to have that discussion with kids that, like, if you do happen to find out, like, if you can identify one of the teachers or the assistant, don't be a jerk about it. But which is a good conversation to have, like ethics of data and presentation. But they also get to see things, like the superintendent of the system. There's everybody making a certain amount of money, and then there's the single dot way out there, which is the superintendent. And they're like, wow, superintendents make that much money compared to everybody else. I mean, there's some really interesting stuff there. But one of the things that I thought that was more benign, I went and pulled all the birthday data for all the students in the school. It's a very quick report that I can run in the system, or just pull all the names and the birth dates of kids. And I thought, like, that'll be sort of interesting to them. It's a good introductory kind of lesson. Nothing scandalous is going to pop out, And but I was wrong. We very quickly ran into something that was like we very quickly ran into something very interesting, and that was we were looking at dates and names, and I figured I was steering the conversation towards, well, like, how many people share your birthday? The kids are very excited about that, and then you have to tell them, like, after 5 minutes of, well, look up April 14th, and seeing how many, they all want to see who else shares a birthday with them. But then we start talking about, well, with 1,200 students in the school, is that all the birthdays? Is every date eaten up? What's the maximum number of shared birthdays on a day? What's the lowest number? Does anybody only share a birthday with themselves? So that's where I planned to take the conversation, and we were doing some of that. But at some point, we sorted the list of birth dates by date, and so all the January 1st popped up to the top of the list. So it was January 1st, January 2nd, all the way down, and all of a sudden we looked at January 1st, and there were 7 names that were all January 1st. And in my school, only one of them was a white name. And that immediately caught our attention, because why are there so many, it's uncommon for 7 names to immediately show up in January 1st. And so that led us into a discussion about the January 1st names that we were up there seeing. There are refugee kids, and oftentimes when many of them come to this country, they had their birth date rubber stamped, or maybe their family wouldn't even ask what birthday the kid. These are little kids, and maybe their parents weren't even speaking English. But when they got here, then a lot of our immigrant and refugee kids, they have the January 1st birthday, and all of a sudden that just popped up in the middle of class, and I think they did a good job handling it. I was a little worried that I was putting, like, the refugee kids on blast a little bit, because I'm sort of inadvertently, we just kind of stumbled upon, we're calling them out as being refugee kids, but it does matter that there's, because one of those kids the year before was he was a football player for the high school, and there was a big hubbub about the January 1st birthday, because that wasn't his real birthday. And he was, according to the football rules in Georgia, he was ineligible because he was too old to play football because of his January 1st birthday. And so it was an interesting school problem to try and get this kid eligible again to play sports because he wasn't old, because he wasn't old enough to. Because he was, I guess on paper, because of his January 1st birthday and whatever year they ascribed to him, they thought he was 20 years old. He wasn't. So it started, some of the teachers went to bat for him and wrote some letters to the state, and we got it fixed. But the January 1st, the even things that you think are going to be innocuous, really sometimes have some really interesting and surprising effects, and students they're fascinated by that and they love it. And I mean that's all I want in my classroom. I want them to love it, and I want them to love the engagement and be able to see what they can do with their own data sets and go and find their own information. And so I'm really glad to be here because that's what you guys are doing, and it's very inspiring, and I can't wait to go back and start monkeying around with a lot of this stuff, try and steal some of your ideas and try and see if they work in my classroom. Thank you for inviting me.